Where's my lemming? This presentation will detail my investigation into the decline in population of the northern collared lemming, a mammal that lives on the Arctic tundra in Greenland. The tundra is an especially harsh environment, reliant on cycles of long winters, extreme cold, and a bedrock of permafrost. Permafrost, buried under soil and extending over much of the Arctic tundra, is ice that has been frozen for so many hundreds of years it's become hardened. It doesn't melt, or at least it did not. Before 1995, the lemmings grew to very large numbers every 3 to 5 years. This population was then decimated by local predators. Up to 80% of lemmings would become prey for eagles, foxes, and other creatures. Since 2001, however, lemming populations haven't boomed and busted in their usual cycle. In fact, they've declined to 20% of their original numbers. This puts a strain on the wider ecosystem, and plants that lemmings would usually eat and distribute are not being eaten and therefore not propagating. We don't know exactly why this has happened, but there's many possible factors: changes in vegetation, less snowfall, seasonal variations, and of course the melting of the permafrost. All of these are most likely caused by climate change. Studies indicate the collared lemming could be extinct by the end of this century. Now, this is only one of many species to be facing this dire future. Direct action is needed to combat this decline, but what and how? Is the melting of the permafrost really the cause of this decline? And if so, can it be reversed before things change permanently? The lemming is listed as a very vulnerable species by the Alaskan Wildlife Refuge. It's extremely hard life, surviving incredible temperatures, spending a long period of time underground, and snow crawls at the level of the permafrost is now even more risky. The lemming's fur becomes completely white during winter to remain camouflaged. The temperatures in the region have risen over the last 50 years, and as a result, snowfall is thinner and the upper layer of the permafrost is larger, wetter, and even more troublingly, no longer permanent. This change in the seasonal ecology is most likely the reason for the northern collared lemmings' decline, and could explain why the boom or bust method of the lemmings may become a thing of the past. Climate change scientists research the past to compare it with the present. They can look at radical climate shifts and, by analyzing DNA of fossils, can determine the effect rapid climate change might have had on a species. For example, a recent study compared the DNA of lemmings from 25,000 years ago with those from today to discover how far their genetic diversity had shifted. They observed that ancient lemmings' DNA, which was obtained just after a major climatic change, just like the world is experiencing now, showed very little diversity after this shift. This means the lemming died out to extremely small numbers. Charles Hewitt indicates that the lemming has since that time displayed similarly small genetic diversity. This basically means that the lemmings are all but one family, and the spread of their species is extremely controlled. The impact of a major change in environment on a species with limited diversity like this could be so much more catastrophic than a species with wide diversity like humans. The lemming may seem small and insignificant, but represents that everything is linked in this world. Everything relies upon something else for survival, and if you pick the wrong thread, everything will unravel. Climate change is that thread, and we must quickly weave the damage we have wrought. But what can we do? Firstly, acknowledge that climate change is a real problem and must be tackled as soon as possible. We can attack it from a personal level, being more savvy about your environment and the way you look after and preserve resources. But also, activism in the sense of contacting politicians, members of parliament, heads of corporations can only help as those people as the more people who are determined to make a change, the more those people in power will see it as a necessity and not an option.